Hello, my name's Carolyn and I'm the ceramics tutor at Studio 306. Today I'm going to show you how to make a soft slab vase. There's some examples of it here and it's one of the first projects when people come to us that they learn how to do. So there's going to be various tools and bits of equipment that you need. A lot of them, if you don't have them, you can use similar things that you might have lying at home. I'm going to be using clay today, a nice stoneware clay. Obviously not everyone has clay at home, so you could use a salt dough that you make up, or you could use an air drying clay as well to do this project. So the first thing we've got to do is roll out the clay. I like to roll onto a sheet of fabric so that it doesn't stick to the table. You can use newspaper. So put your clay in the middle, and then what you need to do is roll your clay out to a certain thickness using roller guides. Now I'm using here, these were slats of a blind, and I just pile them on top of each other, and that's the sort of thickness that I need. I'm going to use a rolling pin, so it's a standard piece of equipment you might have in your kitchen. Obviously you need to wash it before using it for food again. And I need to know roughly how big a piece of clay I want to roll out. I'm going to roll out a piece of clay that measures about this size. That's what I'm after, because that I know will wrap around the piece I want to make. So when you get a lump of clay like this, you can start to roll it out, but that's quite tiring. So probably the funnest and the easiest way to start is by bashing it down, minding your hands of course, and bashing. I've got quite a lot of clay here. I don't really need this much, but there we go, it's a start. And then when you're ready to roll, you're just rolling out the clay nice and evenly. You can flip it over, and the idea is to roll this clay so that it's the same thickness as the roller guides. So when you finish rolling out and you've got a nice smooth piece of clay, I always like to shut my eyes and run my hands, and then you can feel any bumps that you might have in there. What a good idea then is to compress the clay. Now I'm using here a rubber kidney. If you don't have that at home, you might have an old bank card or store card or something, and you're just really literally going to run it across the surface of the clay just to compress that clay down. And then you can flip it over the other side. Don't worry if you've got any lines or anything in it from your fabric. You're just going to compress it down like that. So the next thing we're going to do is we need a straight line, a straight edge. So I'm going to lay down this roller guide that I've used, and with my knife, which is a potter's knife, but you can use sort of any knife, carefully cut straight down that straight line, pulling away that bit of clay. This is the tube that I'm going to wrap the clay around to form the round shape that we want, but if I was to wrap the clay around that, it might stick. So the first thing I need to do is to grab a piece of newspaper and secure that round the tube loosely. So make sure that the flat edge is lining up with the flat edge of the newspaper. Wrap it around, and you don't want it to be so tight because ultimately we need to be able to pull the tube away. And then just secure it with some tape. This tube is from a fabric roll, but you could use any sort of tube that you can find around. Just make sure it's fairly sturdy. So when you've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to cut another straight edge to start our pot. I'm just going to make a small pencil holder with this one. It's not a massively long piece. I'm going to keep that piece, that will come in handy later. And then we're going to line up the edge of our clay with the edge of our tube. And then this is where using fabric is quite nice, because you can use the fabric to pull that clay tight around the tube. You can see it coming around there until the two sides join. I'm going to cut off the clay, the excess clay there, move that out of the way, and then bring that together and just give them a little roll to join them. And then we've got sort of the basis of our tube started off. Now to make that join nice and proper, what we can do is we can just cut down there with a knife, right down that double bit we've got there, peel away the excess clay, there's a little bit hiding in there as well, and then push those two seams together and secure it with our finger, a flat finger, just going across the clay like that. And this is calling this a soft slab vase because the clay we're using is very soft and it will join. There's no need here for slips and scoring that we'd often use in ceramics. There's a slight bulge there, but that really doesn't matter, we'll sort that out later on. So now we're going to put a base onto our pot, and what we do, I mean obviously just make sure it's fairly round, and then you can put it on top of your spare bit of clay, and what you do then with your pottery knife is just cut probably about 5mm all the way around. It doesn't matter if it's a wiggly line, it doesn't have to be perfect at all, so just cut with the knife around like that. I'll often do this on a banding wheel in the studio, but keeping it simple for today. And then you can pull away your excess clay, again keeping it to one side, and then just to seal that, again we don't need to scratch and slip this because the clay is so soft. We're just going to get a flat-edged wooden tool. Again, I'm sure you can find something at home that would do this, and just go all the way around the outside, bringing that bottom up to the sides just to secure it in place. All the way around like that. Now from this point onwards it's really important not to press down onto our wooden tube, because in effect it's like a cookie cutter now if we press down. It's quite, you can see how loose that is, which is exactly what we want. So now we've got this pot, it's a little bit rough around the edges, and I'm going to do some cleaning up of the sides next. What I've got here now are two kidneys. These are metal kidneys. One has a serrated edge and one is smooth. The serrated edge one is great for getting rid of bits of clay, and the smooth one obviously for smoothing things out. If you don't have these at home, you could use again an old bank card or something, which you could cut to shape if you wanted to shape it. But what we do now with the kidney is we start to remove excess clay and smooth out. And with the serrated kidney, we do sort of like a cross hatch, and it just sort of starts to even up those sides. And there's obviously where the join was, there's a little bit of extra clay that needs to be removed. You do this all the way round, and then you get your smoother kidney or card or whatever you're using, and you can then just smooth off the surface to get something nice and round, remembering all the time not to press down on your top of your tube. So now we've got it nice and smooth. The top is a little bit uneven, and obviously here now I have got it onto a banding wheel, so I can move it round and it's pretty central on there. You can do this without a banding wheel though at home, but what you need to do is hold your arm really steady, ground it onto something. So here I'm grounding it onto the desk I'm working on, and I'm just going to draw a line, keep my pen in one place, a bit like you would have done with a pair of compasses at school, and just draw a line until it meets up there. And then I can go in with my knife, my glasses, and I can make the cut. Now there's lots of ways you can disguise a slightly rough rim, so please don't worry about it if it's a little wonky. As I always say, something that's handmade should be a little wonky. You don't want it to be completely perfect. It's made by hand, and each one will be slightly different. There you go, so you've got a much more even top there, I hope. And now we're ready to put some decoration onto the side of our holder. So now really the world's your oyster with what you do with this. I've got a few things here just to show you some things you can use that you might have lying around that can make an effect. A piece of lace here, I'm just going to lay it on, and I can use that card to just rub it in, and I'll get a really nice impression with the laces. These are, you know, things that a lot of people have lying around, or you can pick them up in markets and things. When we're putting something like this onto a round, so this is flat, this is round, what we need to do is we need to press it in one side and gradually move it around like that, and then you're going to get a nice impression. So there's a number of these things I've got here that I'm just going to press onto the side, and you just make sure that you give them a good press in. The clay is still soft, so you can put you know, press them in as you go. And you can make the pattern up, and you know what, if you do something and you don't like it, you can get your kidneys out and scrape it off and try again. So it really is great fun having a go at this part of the decoration. And then finally, to try and disguise what might be a slightly uneven rim, I've got a little piece of wood here with a hole in it. You could use anything, a fork, a knife, something you've got lying around, but I'm just going to press that into the rim all the way around, and you can see, not too hard because it's starting to bulge out, but you can see that that will give that rim a nice little effect, and then you might want to think about pressing it in around the bottom for some sort of symmetry there. So when that's done, you've got your sort of final piece. I just like to run my thumb around the clay as it's drying to give a nice smooth join there. Obviously I haven't decorated this one properly, but I've just given you some ideas. When you've finally finished it, the one thing you must remember to do is to take this tube out, because as the clay dries, it shrinks, and if it shrinks around something hard that it can't shrink, it will just split, and then you won't have a pot. This piece of paper can stay in until it's completely dry, and then you can take it out before you put it into a kiln or leave it to dry or put it in the oven, whatever it is you're going to do. When you've finally fired your piece, however you're going to do it, you can decorate it. This is one that one of our makers is in the stages of decorating. They've used underglaze colours on this. You could use acrylics and then you could cover it with a nail varnish to get a nice shine. Some people just like to leave it as it is, but that's basically an introduction to one of the first projects you'd do if you came to Studio 306, and something you could do at home with a few home tools. I hope you've enjoyed watching this simple ceramic technique. To find out more about Studio 306 and the work we do, please look at our website or follow us on social media. Thank you.